Nothing will crush a real estate investor's spirit like landlord stress. The difference between being successful and miserable in managing properties is education. Welcome to Landlord University, where landlords learn. Landlord University is recorded from inside the RentPrep office, where Stephen White and Jeff Pearson share the lessons learned from working with some of the most successful landlords.
Welcome to Landlord University. I'm Jeff Pearson, and this is my co-host,
Stephen White.
Hello, Stephen. How are you doing today?
Doing good, Jeff. Super excited for our guest today. Is somebody that we've been trying to get on the show for a while. Finally wrangled him. Got him here today. It's Brenton Hayden of Renters Warehouse.
Hello, Brenton. How are you doing?
Hi, gentlemen. Real pleasure to chat with you and your audience today.
It's great to have you. I mean, when I look at what you've done in the last few years with Renters Warehouse, it's really kind of amazing. I mean, as an expert in residential property management with your advertising and branding expertise and all of the awards that you've won, it's really fun to have a chance to sit down and talk with you and really dig into some of this stuff. I mean, with the podcast that we have here at Landlord University, we're talking to landlords and trying to give them a lot of really great information. And someone like yourself, who is a landlord, as I understand, with some personal properties, as well as the properties that you guys manage with the company, it's really going to be a lot of fun to sit down and talk a bit about this.
Well, as one of the largest landlords in the United States, at least professionally for another, I think I got a great deal of expertise and experience that I hope you can extract from me today.
Sounds good.
And give some value to your real estate investors and entrepreneurs out there.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you come to have Renters Warehouse and build Renters Warehouse to what it is today?
First of all, I never thought I'd be getting into this. I don't have a family history or background in real estate. Before I started Renters Warehouse, I had less than 1 year experience in real estate before I decided to go out on my own. And I never went to college before I started my business. And I was only 21 years old. And today I'm actually only 29. And I'm now one of the nation's largest landlords. But I fell into this by accident, Jeff. It was unfortunate circumstances of events. And I don't know if you guys have read, I retired from my business at 28. And a lot of people thought that was pretty cool. And you know, my former retirement was, I wanted to redefine retirement. And I did that. And Entrepreneur Magazine asked me to write about how I redefined retirement and why I retired early when I had so much opportunities to grow the business. Well, first I should stop. I want to tell you the story of how I got into this, but I want to give you a little preface here.
That sounds good.
I didn't completely retire. As I said, I redefined retirement. Redefining retirement to me was having the privilege to design each day as I see fit and not being obligated to do really much of anything. And so instead of working in the business, 8 to 8, 7 days a week, I decided I want to work on the business and I want to do what I'm best at, which is business development, B2B, being a visionary, not an integrator. And this form of redefined retirement for myself, it allows me to work 2-3 days a week, if that. And I only work with my franchisees, and I'll talk about that later today in the podcast. And I only work with my executives. So I get to do what I like, I get to work less, and I have an amazing business. And it runs, I have actually multiple businesses that run through executives, managers, people I've recruited and trained to run these businesses. So frankly, I'm on cloud nine, living the dream as a semi-retired 29-year-old now that is one of the largest landlords in the country. And I get to be now a brand spokesperson. I get to do what chefs do so well, which is share their secrets, their best secret sauces, their best practices. And that's why I wanted to be on your podcast, and I'm really glad to be here. But how I got into this was I graduated high school and I got a sales job at the Kellogg's company, selling cookies and crackers to grocery stores. I never thought I'd be doing that either, but I dropped out of the police academy because I realized in a short amount of time that police was not something that was going to give me the lifestyle that I always wished for, which was financial freedom, early retirement, and the ability to travel and see the world. I was going to be severely handicapped in that, so I decided I needed to do something else. And I got offered a job at Kellogg's, the cereal company, I became a sales rep, as I mentioned, and I became very good at it. And I found I had a knack for sales. In fact, that first year, I took the worst performing territory in the state and made it the number one performing territory Kellogg had in the United States, and earned all kinds of awards. I literally sold millions of dollars of frosted animal crackers in Minnesota alone. It was just a fun job. But anyway, they bought a company called Keebler and Sunshine, which has the Cheez-Its brand and other things. And those guys are pro snack distributors. And as a result, they brought in the Keebler people to run the Kellogg Snacks division. And guess what? I'm out of job. One of their best sales reps in the country. I'm out of job. I'm making 6 figures a year. I'm a young man, and I'm living the dream. I'm making great money, and this was the best I ever thought I could do for myself. Well, being downsized, fired, let go, no longer able to work there. Somebody told me the only way I'd make that sort of money was to get into real estate. So I took a job with one of the top real estate agents in Minnesota. This is where I hail from. And I became a salaried at $30,000 a year to be a buyer's agent with some options for bonuses. It was not going to replace my income, but it was giving me the opportunity to learn from one of the best. 6 months later, after being a buyer's agent for that top broker, I went to him and I said, you know, of all these buyers I'm working with, they also want help finding rentals. And I'm also talking to a lot of real estate investors that want to buy real estate investment properties that need help property management and tenant placement. And I said to John, who's my broker at the time, I said, John, we need to get into this. And this is 2005, late 2005, early 2006. And as you know, then in the United States, that was like almost the top of how well the real estate market has ever performed. And he said, no way, we're in an amazing real estate economy right now, focus only on real estate. And for that reason, he started to sense I was a bit entrepreneurial. And later on, he decided to start his own company. And when he left to start his own company, he fired me. Now I'm fired for the second time. And I'm out. I'm consistently a top performer, and this is really becoming demoralizing for me. And he said, Brenton, you're too entrepreneurial. You're going to be my competition soon, and I don't want to train you in any further. And you have ideas that I think you should pursue, and for that reason, you're fired. Here I am, fired now twice in 2 years, going from being really excited about what I'm doing both times to having nothing going on. And this is what Entrepreneur Magazine asked me to write about, how I had these trials and tribulations along the way, yet still retired early, how you can be fired, evicted from your apartment and whatnot. And that's where I was going with an entrepreneur article. I got to write about that, and it really went viral, and that's where I've been getting a lot of opportunities to talk on podcasts about what I've learned over the years. And so after I left Jonathan, I started my own real estate company, late 2006. By 2007, it was called Renter's Warehouse. The real estate market had collapsed, and I was the hottest thing since canned Coke in the state of Minnesota. Everybody needed help renting their properties as an alternative to selling in a down market. Everybody needed help finding tenants and shoring up their investments because now is not a good time to be vacant. And as the market was bottoming out, people were buying distressed properties, and we became a startup that was on fire. Our first year, we did $900,000 in revenue. Our second year, almost $2 million. And it started out in late 2006 when it was just me driving around in a car renting homes. And by 2007, we formed Renter's Warehouse and became an entity. And now we're one of the largest landlords in the country. We're the second largest professional landlord service in the United States. And we have about 7,500 properties under management, which equates to about $2.5 billion worth of residential property we oversee. So I know that was a long-winded story to get to that, but I felt that there was some preface in there that will speak to some of the things we'll talk about later today.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about what is Renter's Warehouse.
Renter's Warehouse is a professional landlord service that helps everyday homeowners and real estate investors to rent and manage their residential real estate. It's that simple. We're a professional landlord for hire. We help you rent and manage real estate. So our value proposition is so powerful, it's really made us popular. We have the ability to rent properties on average like 12 days. We manage properties for a flat fee instead of a percentage, and our management fee is just $79 a month. You can cancel anytime. There's no contract. There's no cancellation period. There's no cancellation fee. You only pay us if and when we find a tenant and if and when we collect the rent. So we're accountability based in pricing. We got rid of all the junk fees. And now we're one of the most highly reviewed, well, we are the single most highly reviewed property management company in the United States. We built what investors wanted. Low cost, high accountability, high value proposition, professional landlord service that was not just a fly-by-night mom and pop that was helping you manage properties, but a sophisticated organization with innovative technology and proprietary processes. And that's what we are. We kind of joke about that we're a technology company first and property management company second, because when I got into this business in 2006, 2007, there was almost no technology for the property management space. Property management softwares were limited to like one or two, and they were made for mostly commercial companies. Marketing property software, or even websites that had rental properties on them, were just starting to come into the limelight. So we really became an innovator, or one of the most innovative real estate companies in the marketplace. And as a result, we really timed things well. And now we're managing a lot of properties for all types of people, from hedge fund managers to invitation homes to real estate investors, to mainly the everyday Joe. 91% of all of our clients have fall into the 1 to 2 property category and are employed in some other occupation. And that is considered a throwaway client by most other property managers. The person who owns one house, one townhome, one condo, nobody wanted to work with. They wanted to seek out the whale that had 50 properties, 25 properties, the big hedge fund, and there are just very few of those people that exist. In fact, there's a stat out there that says that you fall in the top 1 percentile of all real estate investors in United States by simply owning 5 or more rental properties. You fall into the top 1%. Yet every property management company speaks investor speak and goes after all these big real estate investors who want customized services. They want discounted prices because they're a big client. They generally think they know more about real estate than the property management company, and they're just kind of pains in the butt. So I decided I don't want to deal with big clients. I want to deal with everybody else that's the small client. And it was that notion that really made us a fast-growing company. In fact, for 5 consecutive years, we're one of the fastest-growing privately held businesses in all of the United States.
Brenton, you're speaking my language. Something that I can tell, and share with my own personal experience at RentPrep, doing tenant screening. We started out catering to the larger property management companies, the big entities, and you hit it right on the head. They're a pain in the butt. And
Yep.
And RentPrep now caters. 99% of our clients are, like you said, 1 or 2 properties, and they're much easier to please. They're much easier to work with. They're much more reasonable. They're willing to listen to good advice instead of, like you said, they think they know everything, and they want to have it their way and only their way, and you end up creating all kinds of special circumstance. But those landlords that are out there, the onesies or twosies as we call them, that's the sweet spot. That's where I think most landlords are in that, right there, right in that zone.
For me, running a business, you have to be efficient, and you have to know what you are and what you aren't. You have to know who you cater to and who you don't. And you have to identify what I like to call banana flavored lasagna. And that comes from a book called Rework. If you imagine yourself, you owned a restaurant, and somebody came along and looked at your menu and then looked at the waiter and said, I don't see banana flavored lasagna in here. I'm really mad. That's my favorite meal, and I want banana flavored lasagna, and maybe your chef will make that for me. And I come here all the time. I spend a lot of money with you, but I want banana flavored lasagna. And do you or do you not make banana flavored lasagna for that customer? Well, that is what big hedge funds, big clients are asking you to do by creating customized services, reduce your prices, do this for me instead of what you normally do because I'm smarter than you or I want it done a certain way. It's like going back to the chef and asking him to make banana flavored lasagna. It takes you out of your proven processes and systems. It takes you out of the efficiencies that you have when you have scale and size. And it makes one customer more important than another. And for that reason, I stand against all of that. And for that reason, I have done business with Invitation Homes and other major players, but I will not give them special treatment, and they've paid the same rate as everybody else. In fact, I had them in Minnesota here. We were doing a significant amount of business. It was going to equate to about $2 million in business just from the Minnesota branch, and new revenue that year from doing business with Invitation Homes. And we persuaded them that we will not do anything different for you, but we are the best at what we do. And they hired us anyway because, frankly, we're about 60% market share in Minnesota. And we dominated it. They were at like 98% occupancy. We had a system down, man. We had a dedicated leasing agent. They were getting the corporate office at Invitation Homes and the regional president. And I talk about Invitation Homes, they're the world's largest landlord, if anybody doesn't know. 48,000 homes they bought in the last 2 years. Well, corporate office and their regional president was getting kudos and awards for having high vacancy rates, achieving higher than normal rents. And then guess what? Corporate got involved. The chairman of the powers that be at Invitation Homes says, you're paying these guys too much. Ask them to take a pay cut or move the business elsewhere. They asked us to take a pay cut. I said, you're welcome to move the business elsewhere. I think the best way for you to see my value is for you to see what your options are. And now they have somewhat of a bad rating on the Better Business Bureau here in Minnesota. They are noted in the papers a lot for being somewhat of not a good landlord. And I'm personally trying to track what their occupancy rate is because I can't see that internally anymore. But I'm seeing properties with signs up for a lot longer than we ever would have done in territories that we manage a lot of properties at. And I'm willing to bet, according to some actual data, that they're probably around 60, 70% occupied now without our help. So the point is if you stick to the proven process and system, they benefited greatly. And when they went to the old ways of what big companies do, they bit themselves in the foot. And had I not dealt with this 5-6 times before in big clients, I would have not known to walk away from this deal. But I did, and it was one of the better moves we've ever had. We're still wildly profitable, and they now know our true value. In fact, there's been several discussions about going back. But they keep coming up on the pricing. Before it was a 50% price cut. Now it's a 30% price cut. I think now they're at a 25% price cut. Point is, they're not getting it. I'm not taking a price cut. We're the Yankees of property management. We're the best at what we do, and you got to pay for you pay for what you get. And if you want one of the best, you got to fall into my systems, which has made us one of the fastest growing, most highly reviewed property managers in the country. And if you don't like that or you don't see the value, I know who I want to do business with and who I don't, and I don't want to do somebody that wants banana-flavored lasagna from me at a discount. And for that reason, I'm not doing business with them. I think the world of them. I think they're doing good things for the real estate market, but I think the people who don't know what they're doing at the top really are putting Invitation Homes in jeopardy.
Right. I've seen it happen time and time again with our own clients. I understand exactly where you're coming from, and you're right. It does take you a couple to learn, but then you do reach that one point where you say, "No, we're not gonna bend. This is how it is, and this is our process," like you said, and you stick true to it. But I think any entrepreneur, any growing business, tries to cater to everybody at first, and then you realize it's not working like that. We're losing our magic. We need to stick with what we know.
It's only natural. When you're a small business and you need clients, you're going to take them. But as a franchisor, I have a lot of small renters warehouse businesses just getting started around the country, and I'm advising them still. This is what I know from my experience, that these will not end well for you, and they're not going to be profitable for you, and you're going to end up working all your time for this client that's not making you any money instead of going out and getting clients that appreciate, want, and need you. And it's tough. You got to have some balls, you got to have a backbone, and you got to be willing to say, I'm going to rededicate that time and money that I would have got there towards future customer acquisition of clients I do want. And it really comes down to knowing who you are, what you stand for, what you stand against, and what your business is prepared to do. And as long as you understand your business, you shouldn't become desperate and fall for I'm a huge client and you'd be so lucky to get my business. It's not the case. If you really got that great of a business, you should, make sure you command what you believe you're worth.
So let me ask you now, you're catering obviously to the smaller non-professional landlord, the ones that own just a handful of properties, maybe they're real estate investors. What is it that's going to attract them to the renter's warehouse? Obviously, we talked about some of the management aspects of it and the flat fee, which is incredible. But, take me through the process as a new landlord. And I talk to a lot of new landlords, and there's definitely that, not only the fear factor of getting into something like this, then comes the the rush of knowledge. They're trying to pack as much in as they can. What can you guys do to help alleviate some of those stresses?
You guys are both real estate investors, yes?
Yes.
Well, put your real estate investor hat on. I'm going to talk to you as what I think you're going to hear a lot of things you're really going to like, and you probably haven't even heard before. And that's what's so great about our company. And that question couldn't be a better question to ask us, because this is where we thrive. Renters Warehouse listened to investors before we started our company. And I'm not talking about big investors. I'm talking about regular real estate owners who have one or two extra properties. What are you looking for in a property management company? I spent a lot of time asking those questions. And what I found is they wanted accountability, transparency, credibility, value, and results ultimately. So here's what we created. We have two main services. We have a lot of ancillary services that can help clients that want some specific products, and I'll tell you those. But the two main services are tenant placement and property management. Tenant placement we call our Certified Tenant Match Program. Property management we call our full-service professional landlord program. These services are unique in the fact that they're uncoupled from each other. You can hire me just to find a tenant. You can hire me just to manage the tenant, or as 75% of our customers do nationwide, you can hire me for both. But you don't have to choose both, and that's what nearly every other property management company requires you to do. So we've uncoupled the two. Value point one. So let's talk about tenant placement. If you have a vacant rental property, single-family home, townhome, condo, loft, or apartment buildings, you hire us on a non-exclusive basis, on a marketing agreement only, and our job is to market and advertise your property using our state-of-the-art and proprietary software we invented called RentFeeder. That software is going to put you on 228 of the nation's largest rental property websites out there. Sites like rent.com, rentals.com, rentalhouses.com, Trulia, Zillow, Realtor, you name it. Every property we list is on those sites at our expense. So value proposition number two, the largest marketing exposure of any property management company in the country guaranteed, because we have the largest national syndication relationship of anybody out there. The third value proposition point is we pay for all the advertising. We have no fees up front to the clients. We ask no retainer, no advertising fees, no nothing. We're totally accountable in the sense that only if and when we find a tenant that's approved by the homeowner. Value proposition number four, the homeowners approve tenants, unlike other property management companies who approve the tenants for you. Homeowners approve tenants here at Renters Warehouse. And we do all the showings, all the background checks, and we'll prepare you with an opinion, a background check, and all their financial information to help you determine whether or not that is a good tenant. If you approve that tenant, now we were the first ever, we invented this. We're gonna warranty that tenant for free and with no fine print. What that means is for any reason at all, that tenant is subject to default of the lease agreement, is a bad tenant, dies of a heart attack or gets called into the military and has to breach his lease. We owe you a new tenant at absolutely no additional cost to you whatsoever, so long as it happens within the first 9 months of tenancy. Unconditional, no asterisks. The only asterisk is within the first 9 months of tenancy. Otherwise, you get all of this, and our fee to place a tenant, a well-qualified tenant, a tenant approved by the homeowner, where we inherited all the marketing costs, is a commission equal to 1 to 2 months rent. That's our fee for tenant placement, and it's only if and when we find somebody. Now, the transaction can stop there. You can manage the property yourself or give us another one to rent, but we could stop there, or as most of our clients, they'll then hire us to manage that property. For $79 a month, $2.54 a day, less than the price of a cup of coffee, you get to access my professional landlords, which we have about 130 here in Minnetonka, Minnesota, that will help you rent and manage your real estate. Here's what we do for that $79 a month. We collect the rent. We coordinate the maintenance with our discounted large vendor network. We enforce the lease provisions. We help you with evictions if necessary. We do all your monthly accounting. We prepare the lease agreements. We prepare lease renewal documents. We do property inspections, quarterly inspections, random and routine inspections, licensing inspections, city inspections, you name it. We're your full-service professional landlord, and it is just $79 a month. There are no fees up front, no lengthy contract, and you can cancel anytime. In fact, the last thing that's important to note is that we only take our management fee when you collect the rent. So we're totally accountable in the sense that we get paid when you get paid, so we have the interests are similarly aligned. With that note, it's really hard to be a great landlord. Tenant wants everything, if there's an AC out on a hot day, they want it fixed that day. Well, the homeowner may want you to get 3 bids to get the best price before you replace that air conditioner. And they know that the law says they have 10 to 14 days to figure out how long they have to fix before they fix that maintenance request. Well, tenant wants it done tomorrow, homeowner wants the cheapest price and the best vendor, and he wants to take his time so long as it's within the legal limit. Now, the landlord, the professional landlord that we are, we're stuck in the middle of that. Despite all of these scenarios and circumstances where it's real easy for the property manager to become the enemy, and in fact, if you go out and research any property manager, and ask you to do this. Almost all of them have a terrible rating on the internet or on these rating review sites because it's nearly impossible to maintain a positive reputation as a third-party middleman property manager, except for Renters Warehouse. If you look at our reviews, we have thousands of authentic reviews on Yelp, Google Places, Angie's List, Better Business Bureau, you name it, of people raving about our customer service, the results, the transparency and the accountability, and just the overall model. So what we're doing works. And those are the two main services. But now get this. We know that homeowners have three fears when it comes to renting their property. Fear of lost rent. If the tenant doesn't pay the rent, how am I going to pay the mortgage payment, or what's that going to cost me? Fear of the eviction and the process and the costs associated with it. And fear of property damage. Everybody's heard the horror story where a tenant's damaged a property and nobody then wants to rent the property afterwards, and they think that that's a common occurrence. Well, those are three real fears, and they exist. I want you to know it very, very seldom do we have tenants, if ever. I think I have two instances where a tenant damaged a property beyond a security deposit, and I have thousands of transactions I've done in managed properties to prove that. Furthermore, evictions at Renters Warehouse is less than 0.1%. So evictions don't happen all that often. And so for that reason, we created these programs called risk reducing services. We can guarantee the rent for up to 6 months through our Rent Protect program. So if you're fearful of lost rent, we can guarantee the rent for you. And that cost is about $240 a year, roughly. It's an insurance program. And if you're worried about the eviction process, you can sign up for our trademarked eviction protection plan that says for $15 a month above your management fee, in the event of eviction, my company, Renters Warehouse, pays for the eviction, uses our attorneys, goes to court for you, and handles it all. And if you're fearful of property damage, for $20 a month, we'll put a $100,000 accidental property damage coverage on your property, name your tenant additionally insured, name us additionally insured, name the homeowner additionally insured, and in the event that there's property damage in excess of the security deposit, there's only a $100 deductible, and there's $100,000 in coverage for that property owner to be covered in the event that there's a major damage to the property as a result of a tenant accidentally damaging the property. Now, those three fears have allowed us to overcome objections that every regular homeowner may have before considering renting their home. That has allowed us to have an amazing closing ratio. For example, I spend $200,000 a month in Minnesota on radio advertising. It's just one of our radio sources. And I have a 75% conversion ratio of people who call off that radio ad who become my client. Why? No one, and I mean no one, can match our value proposition, much less on our tenant placement or our management, but much less these trademark, proprietary, exclusive services to Renters Warehouse. This is why we're the number one landlord, the fastest growing landlord in the country and the number two in the nation. And yet we've only been doing this 7+ years.
That sounds good. Definitely want to talk a little bit about some of your experience as a landlord, both with your personal properties as well as the properties that you guys manage as a company. Let's start with some of the fun stuff. What are some of your best horror stories?
In rental housing?
Absolutely.
I'll tell you one that's just plain stupid, I think. Actually, I got two of them for you. The first time I ever had a drug problem at a rental property was the second to last time I ever had a drug problem at a property. Our team rented a property in a town in Minnesota, and a guy moved in. Younger couple, younger couple, had good credit, good finances. They moved in. We never heard from them. Like 80% of our tenants, we never hear from them. Everything's good. They're paying the rent. Don't bother me. Okay, great. Well, we never heard from them. Then we got a call from the FBI. And they said, listen, one of your houses is a grow house. We know this. We're going to go kick in your door, but we're hoping you'd give us the key so we can save your door. Okay, here's the key. So we gave him the key. They go in there. The guy had a marijuana grow house. A small one, nonetheless, a marijuana grow house. That's why he was such a good tenant. He didn't want anyone to pay attention to him. Well, anyway, we get rid of him. We clean up the property. Minor damage, relatively. We caught it early. 2 weeks later, just like normal, we put a new tenant in the property. Again, this is a young couple, looked great on paper. 2 days later after this tenant moves in, guess who calls me again? The FBI. This is his buddy. This dumb crack decides to call his buddy and say, hey, go take over my grow operation. It's not like lightning strikes twice in the same place. 2 days later, I think it was 3 days later, they raided the joint and found his buddy started a grow house on the same damn property. So first, second, and ultimately the last time we've ever had one of these issues, that's one of those horror stories, right? Everybody's heard, oh, they grow houses, people do drug. That is the one and only drug issue I've ever had on 4,700 properties I have under management in Minnesota, period. End of story, and that's 7 years experience. So it's not all that common. And, here's just another one that talks to the legal system. Many states are more tenant-friendly than they are landlord-friendly. Perhaps you're familiar as landlords in your state, but it's very tenant-friendly in the state of Minnesota. We love our tenants, and the big, bad, rich landlords get no rights. Well, I got a call. This was when I was taking in operations. We had a customer service person that escalated a call to me, and it was a woman who was renting a property from me. She called me to inform me that her son broke the mailbox. She called our company to inform us the son broke the mailbox, and we asked, the customer service agent asked, how'd you do that? Well, my son was using it as pretty much a swing. He was hanging on it, jumping all over it, riding his bike, building ramps off it, and just completely broken. I was like, and my customer service agent, well, why do you call us? Well, you're going to come fix it, right? Well, we can, we said, but we got to charge you for it. And it was like, that was blasphemy to her. How dare you? How dare you think that we should pay for that? They thought. And we thought the complaint, same thing. How dare you think that we should pay for that? You openly admitted your son broke it by your own negligence.
Right.
Well, we couldn't settle this customer service because we weren't going to give in to that. We said, no, you're going to pay for it. And we're not asking. We're telling you and we're going to take it from your deposit. And we did. She filed a small claim housing court lawsuit against us. Nothing like we're not used to. These things happen, especially over security deposit issues. We almost never, ever lose. We have very well documented processes. But nonetheless, they go to court, and we couldn't settle it in housing court, so it got escalated to district court for a trial. Not very often does this happen. And get this. The court rules that is, in fact, our responsibility to pay for and fix that mailbox.
Unbelievable.
We couldn't believe it. And we're at district court with a real judge, and they really didn't provide any sort of sourcing or law. I'm sure we could appeal it, but the mailbox is like $200.
Right.
We were pointing out that this is principle, not the issue. This is the principle of the issue is what's important to us. Nonetheless, that's a horror story that we never got to make right. It just didn't make sense. But that's to point out that many states are tenant friendly, and we've really come up with a lot of ways to make our lease one of the most landlord friendly leases in the business. We have a lot of clear disclosure, and we invented a move-in, move-out inspection app. We started recording phone calls. We really got some sophisticated systems that, had we been able, she denied the fact later in court that she called in and told us her son broke it. Her story completely changed, and we didn't have that recorded phone call. Had we been able to bring that recorded phone call in there, we would have been able to point out that she said she broke it. How can we pay for that? Well, anyway, those are my fun piss-off horror stories.
Well, one of the things that really stands out to me is I'm well aware that Minnesota is a very tenant-friendly state, as with California, where Jeff is, New York, where I am.
Mm-hmm.
These are all very tenant-friendly states. And so I definitely recommend, if you're a landlord in Minnesota, check out your lease agreement because, you got to have those extra pieces. You got to have those in there for that extra layer of protection for sure.
We even have things like they require that in Minnesota, you're not allowed to ask tenants to mow the lawn included in, as part of their obligations of renting the property. You have to compensate them for that. The Minnesota law says. If they rent a single family home, we've always operated on the assumption if you rent a single family home, you got to mow the lawn. It's your home. Well, Minnesota law just changed that and said, no, it's not their home, so they don't have to mow the lawn. In fact, you got to mow the lawn as the landlord or compensate your tenants for mowing the lawn. Well, that law was new, and that revolutionizes how things are being done on the single-family rental landscape. And we said, how the heck do we handle this? No way is this right. So what we did is we got with our legal team, and being an innovative company that we are, we drafted provisions that are now being adopted by a lot of property managers across the country that state this. Your rent is actually, let's just say the rent is $1,000 a month. Your rent's actually $1,100 a month. But in the event that you mow the lawn, once every week or every 2 weeks maximum, we'll give you $100 rent credit and your rent's really $1,000. So what we do is we just bumped up the rent on everything and disclosed that actually your rent's only $1,000, but you got to mow the lawn and we're giving you a rent credit of $100 to mow it. And in the event that you don't mow it, you don't get the rent credit, and we send somebody out, and we turn that into a profit stream.
I love it. And let me ask you this, diving into some of your landlord knowledge and also tying into what you guys are doing at Renters Warehouse. One of the things that we're preaching here at RentPrep constantly is to increase the selection pool to find a good tenant.
Yep.
It's not easy to pick the best out of two. You're usually choosing the least worst. So, we say you always want to have, and I always say 10 is a good number. You want to have at least 10 people to choose from. That's going to give you a good feel of who you're looking at. The way that you guys are doing your marketing and syndicating all those ads, and obviously you're doing a much better job, I'm sure, than a lot of independent landlords are going to be able to do on their own in the marketing aspect. What do you feel is that magic number to have how many applicants per property before you can drill down deep and say we found the right one?
The more the merrier, obviously. Now, if there's an average number, I don't know it, but I can tell you this number. Last month, we had 1,100 listings active nationwide, and our Rent Feeder program software developed 61,000 renter leads. So 1,100 properties available and 61,000 renter leads were generated on those listings. So we have a huge problem, and the problem is I don't have enough properties to rent because I could rent 5,000 more of them, but I just don't have the ability to get the homeowners fast enough. That's why we spend $200,000 a month on radio. So your point is incredibly valid, but it takes a lot to generate that amount of leads. So we're on every major website out there through our syndication platform. We spend about $20,000 a month to promote nationwide those 1,100 properties, but we'll generate roughly $2 million a month in commissions nationwide off leasing those properties. So it all makes sense. It all works out. But our average market time right now in the summer is about 12 days here in Minnesota. In the winter, it's about 14 days. And that's because we get so many renter leads that we can rent properties quicker with a higher quality tenant. And then because of the fact that we can get higher quality tenants and get them quicker, we can warranty the tenants. Hence, we invented the tenant warranty. And because we know our tenants are better quality than others, we can do things like eviction protection, property protection, and guarantee the rent. Because we picked from the cream of the crop of the best tenants because we had so many to choose from. And as overall looking back into this, all of our customers are much happier now because they're getting much higher quality tenant. Like I said, my eviction rate is 1/10%. And so we very rarely evict tenants. So the tenant warranty proposition is really just a fear reliever. We rarely, if ever, have to work for free to find a new tenant because we almost never evict a tenant. And by the way, that's not because we don't collect rent well. We collect rent at, I would say, better than anybody in the business. 99% of all rent is collected by the 20th of every month at Renters Warehouse. The other 1%, we collect through the end of the month or sometimes into the next month. But 99% is collected every month. We treat your property like a business. So if a tenant is 5 days late, they get fined a fee of $50. They get put on a dialer where we're going to call them at work and at home and their emergency contact. They're going to have to set up a payment plan. They're going to get letters. They're going to get notices posted. And if you ignore all of that by the 10th or the 12th, we're recommending immediately file for an eviction around the 12th or the 15th of every month, and you just get moved right out. Because if you can't communicate, you can't stay, especially if you can't pay. And so it really all starts with that good tenant. And I think it all starts with getting enough tenant leads, and you got to pay for those. You got to be on these premium sites. Long live the days of just put it on Craigslist or just put a sign in the yard and to rent the property. That's not how it's working anymore. You got to get on all the major sites like Trulia, and Trulia, for example, is one of my favorite, and they're one of the rising stars out there for us.
Right. I agree. The more the more space you have out there, the more places that you're in. It's something that we're always telling the landlords is get out in as many places as possible. Use sites that syndicate your ads. Get as many responses as you can so that you have a much better selection pool to find the right one. And that's usually the trick. I mean, just, having your best of out of 10 versus, like I said, that 2 or however many you guys are getting in. But good advertising definitely is a key factor. Now, do you guys have an advertising department that pulls everything together and creates these ads, or is the landlord heavily involved in that process, providing
So
pictures, things like that?
no, this is an effortless experience. If you hire a company, I believe people hire companies because they want an effortless experience. If they wanted to put forth the effort, they do it them damn self. Real estate marketing, rental property management isn't rocket science. Really, anybody could do it. Could they do it at our level? I doubt it. We have some proprietary things. But when a client calls us, we take over. We take over everything. The only thing we really ask them to do is be the executive decision maker. In the event that there's some big decisions to make, money to be spent, we're going to want your input and permission. Otherwise, you can allow us to do as much or give us as much leash as you like, and we'll try and manage this very effortlessly and stress-free and worry-free renting. We really want to create a worry-free rental experience for our landlords, because many of our clients are not sophisticated real estate entrepreneurs. This is a house they inherited or a house they upsize themselves out of, or maybe they're downsizing from 2 homes as a new married couple's joining into 1. They have all their reasons, but they're just not set out for this. So making it effortless and worry-free was our goal to do this. As far as a marketing department goes, I spend about $4 million a year in advertising in Minnesota alone. We're one of the biggest advertisers here, especially on the radio. But with that said, and this is part of our value proposition to prospective franchisees, we only have 2 people that manage that $4 million spend. We have a chief marketing officer whose job is to come up with the creative, work with our graphic designer to design the ads, track and analyze and report on the lead sources. And then we have a media buyer who goes out and negotiates the deals, sets up the frequency, makes the buys, does all the invoicing and handling of the bills. And we've really streamlined it. So you don't need a big advertising department. We show you how to create clients, how to basically customer acquisition. And then we show you from that point, once you got the customer, so you got his house to list. Now we show you how to get tenant acquisition. And then once you got the tenants, we show you how to scale the business, manage that property in an effortless and worry-free way. It's kind of, it comes down to what we keep calling our proven process in all aspects of our business, not just proving how to be a good property manager. We've proved how to be an efficient advertiser and marketer as well.
So let me ask you this from one landlord to another. What's just a golden nugget of a piece of advice that you can give, especially a new landlord starting out? Aside from all the stuff, making sure that you got the right tenant, things like that. What's something that you can say to a landlord to really ensure their success?
Rule number 1 for me, and I have several $1 million of real estate, and I help advise some of the biggest real estate investors in Minnesota, celebrities and hedge funds. But rule number 1 for me that should be applied by all, whether you buy 1 or 100 properties, is your plan A needs to have as good, if not better, plan B. Here's a perfect example. I bought a 3-plex out in a small town in Minnesota. I bought it for $50,000. It was a mold property, and I bought it at auction. Totally needed a total gut. I thought it would need $50,000 to $60,000 of work, assuming there's no out-of-code plumbing and electrical and studs behind the walls. This should be no problem. In fact, I'm set to make about $100,000 when this property's all said and done. Open up the walls. They use 2x2s, knob and tube, electrical. No permits were pulled. Worst possible case scenario. We're now going to spend $150,000 in remodeling that property. We're knee deep in it. We're going to have $200,000 in this triplex in a very small town, Howard Lake. I'm not stressed about it at all. I'm now going from having the opportunity to flip and make $100,000 to not probably make any money and maybe lose if I were to flip it, to knowing that I'm going to cash flow $1,800 a month when that property's rented. And that was my plan B. I bought this as a flip, and I'm a landlord. I love holding properties, but this was a flip. But just like any property, my plan A had to have as good of a plan B. And my plan B was, if I had to rent this thing, would it make a sizable cash flow to make up for the fact there's a sizable investment on this front end of this property? And yes, it was. And so I'm glad I have my plan B, because I would be down and out in a bad way, in bad shape, if my plan B wasn't as good as my plan A. So whenever you buy a property, you need to do your numbers. You need to do your math. You need to know your cash on cash rate, your capitalization rate, your internal rate of return, your rental analysis, and then your after renovation value. You got to know all these things. If you don't, you're an amateur and you shouldn't be buying it alone. If you do know these things, then great. They're easy to learn. In fact, if you don't know these things and you're buying property, you need to spend about a half hour and just learn how to do the simple math of these, because every one of those things I just mentioned are really just kind of a napkin test before you buy a property. And if you're not doing them, that's my number one piece of advice, is to know your numbers and to have a plan A and plan B just as good as each other.
Now, you've also talked about the fact that you don't have that many evictions. What processes do you guys go through to help ensure that you're getting the right renters into these properties?
Clear disclosure up front to the tenant. They're like, oh, we're interested. I want to apply. Well, great. Did you know we really value high credit? And that you need to have an income, 3 times that of the rent. We also don't want any felons in our properties at all. I mean, you can't have one from 10 years now. Just no felons. Sorry. Can't be a sex offender in any capacity. And we need to know about your kids and pets right now up front. How many pets you got? How many kids you got? We want to tell you about the deposit, things like that. And we let people know we have high expectations of renters. This is your home. We expect you to care for it. We have very high expectation of, we're doing business here, and essentially I'm giving you a loan. I'm giving you a high-end piece of real estate or several $100,000 of real estate under your control. I need to know you're willing to take care of it. And then furthermore, let's say the rent's $1,000 a month. I'm basically giving you a $12,000 installment loan. I don't do these things without checking your credit and making sure you're a person willing to pay. And when you talk to people like that, they're like, this is no slough. He's no amateur. I'm not going to pull no fast ones on him. And he's going to come down hard on me if I do just the things I know I'm probably going to do here.
So you're doing that in your initial conversations with these prospective tenants.
When somebody expresses interest, we express the interest that we would have in a prospective tenant. These are the things that make us excited about a tenant. So are you that then, Mr. Tenant? Oh, no, I got bad credit and I got 6 dogs and 3 kids. And, I don't know if this is the right property for you.
Right. And so often landlords are trying to sell their property to the prospective tenants.
Yes.
Rather than laying out all of these basic pieces of information, these expectations, as you said. It really makes a lot of sense.
Just like business owners wanting to do business with that big hedge fund. You got to know what you want, what you don't want, and you got to stand for it. Now, we can do that because we have the tenant volume. And so it takes money to make money. You got to invest in getting the tenants so that you can have only the best tenants. And so that's why mom and pop property managers typically can't match our value proposition. That's why our longevity in the marketplace really gives us a great reputation. People have a long history of we only placing high quality tenants. At the end of the day, too, it makes your business more efficient. If you're placing shitty tenants in the property, you're working hard. You're working along. You're collecting rent. You're chasing it down. You're enforcing the lease. You got lots of evictions. You got pissed off clients. They're not coming back. They got a bad taste in their mouth about renting. There's nothing good from placing a tenant in the property, even if you'd rather be vacant. I would rather be vacant than to have a bad tenant in my property paying rent.
Yeah, it can cost you a lot more money having the bad tenant in the property.
Way more.
So you talked a little bit about the franchising opportunities that you have. Let's go into some detail about that.
Absolutely. We're looking for real estate passionate entrepreneurs to help us expand across the country. Currently, we have 14 offices in 11 states, and we're the fastest growing real estate company in America. We are looking to help accelerate that, and we really want real estate brokers, real estate lawyers, previous entrepreneurs, or people just looking to start their own business and be their own boss. And we will teach you how to do the Renter's Warehouse model of property management. We will make you a professional landlord. We will be your partner for life and give you a Renter's Warehouse brand and attach all the accolades and reviews that come along with it and help make sure that you can duplicate or replicate what we've done so well in other markets in your local market. So we're looking to sell franchises. I have 4 franchises in my offices now in our headquarters that one's from Ames, Iowa, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Dallas, Texas, and Las Vegas, Nevada. We'll be having offices there. And they're in training right now. We have other offices in Baltimore, Maryland, Atlanta, Georgia, Phoenix, Arizona, Denver, Colorado. We're in these major markets helping entrepreneurs establish a renter's warehouse where they can help real estate investors and property owners to rent and manage their residential real estate. And here's the business economics of it. It's about $35,000 for a franchise fee. We give you a 1 million person territory. So we have a mapping tool that if you call me up, Jeff, and say I want an office in California, we say where? You say Los Angeles, okay. Well, I have a mapping software that tells me where the bulk of the investor properties are, what the saturation rate is, what's the average rents, et cetera. And I help you determine the right spot for your office. I give you a very big territory because I expect you to be a very big property manager. $35,000. Then for $5,000 more, we build your website. We build all your business cards, your brochures, your pamphlets. We give you what we call your business startup kit. Everything you need to go into business day one. Your for rent signs, you name it. You also get access to all of our rent feeder software, our PR team, our celebrity spokespeople that help you on radio ads. You get our TV commercials, our social media presence, all of our national accounts with Wells Fargo and Bank of America and these other things. And then all we ask is a 4.5% royalty in exchange for our support, training for life to stay invested in your business to help you grow. And that's on your profits, your revenue.
And where would someone go to find out more information or get in contact with you about this?
We have two websites out there. One is called professionallandlords.com. That's where you can learn just about our franchise opportunity. And because we're not innately salespeople, we allow you to learn a lot about the franchise opportunity on that website. Just go to professionallandlords.com. And then if you sign up or say, I want more information, what it does is it creates a username and password into our online learning environment where you can learn about our franchise model at your own pace, at your own time, without a salesman telling you, things you don't really care to hear yet at this stage. And then only then, as you graduate through the 6 courses, then you talk to actually the president of Renters Warehouse USA or myself, who then say, okay, you've learned a lot about the company now. Let's go through your questions. What comments do you have? What market are you looking at? Tell me about your experience and things like that. Then the other side is if you just want to learn about our operation, our property management services, become a client, or see what our other franchisees are doing around the country, just go to renterswarehouse.com. There, it's our national homepage. You can click on the state that's of most interest to you. Assuming we have an office, it'll take you to the landing pages of each individual franchise. And there you can see the listings, kind of how we work, the service array, the reviews, and just the overall functionality of us as a business.
Great.
And we'll definitely be sure to include the links in the show notes to both of those.
Wonderful, guys.
All right, Brenton, I think that pretty much brings us to the end. I mean, were there any other thoughts that you had that maybe you would want to share with landlords?
Landlords, there's just so much to learn and to know, and
Yes.
It's great that you guys are doing a podcast because those that stop learning stop growing. There's an adage I love, and I'll probably just leave you with that. If you really want to be a real estate investor, you need to invest the time. And the adage is this: a lot of people spend time, a lot of people waste time, a lot of people kill time, but very few people actually invest their time. And if you're looking to be a great landlord, or you're looking to be a great real estate investor, or perhaps I want to be a great business owner, you need to invest the time in you, education, your business, your people, your family, your relationships within that business. You need to invest the time. Your time is money, and you need to spend it on your business, yourself, your clients, your friends, and your family. And a lot of people don't do that. Once they get into business, they stop investing the time. And this is the difference. This is what I told my franchisees today when they're in a 5-day training course this week, where it's basically drinking from a fire hose. And I said, you guys got to put the phones away. You gotta just clear your head and invest your time this week into soaking up as much as you can from this, because that's what those that don't succeed do. Is they don't invest their time. They just are here, they're listening, sort of, I'm picking and choosing. But those that actively engage in the whole course are some of our best franchisees, and I want you to know that this is how you will be successful or not. I think that advice can be applied to real estate investing and just being a landlord in general.
Yes, that is very good advice.
Excellent.
Well, Brenton, thank you very much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. And as Steve said, we're going to be sure to include the links to both of the websites online.
Very good, guys. It was a real pleasure. If you guys ever have a theme topic you want to talk about, or there's a trending topic, I do special consulting work for BBC, Entrepreneur Magazine, Realtor Magazine, and things. If you ever want to get a large landlord's opinion on things, I really enjoy talking about real estate. It's a passion of mine. And if you ever think I can offer more insight or value to you and your listeners, please don't hesitate to ask. I'd love to become a regular with y'all.
That sounds great. Thank you very much. We'll definitely be in touch with you on some topics.
Wonderful, guys. Really, really great thing you're doing here. there's a book I'd love for you to read called Rework, and one of the chapters is called Emulate Chefs. And if you think about that, chefs do a good job of drawing people into their restaurant and to do business with them, yet they give all their secrets away in their recipe books. I'm looking to do that by sharing my expertise, and you guys are doing that by offering your time and investing your time in this podcast. So kudos to you guys for emulating chefs and sharing all the best practices so that we can make this a better real estate market and smarter landlords out there every day in every stretch of the continent.
Sounds good. And Rework is by Jason Fried. I believe
Yes.
he's the founder of 37 Signals.
Yes, he is. That book revolutionized my mindset on how I operate a business. The book Rework, and then the new book they wrote called Remote Masters the Art of Remote Working. Some of the best books I've ever read. They really are talking about the new mentality of business owners and how to grow and establish a business. I recommend it to anyone out there. You'll hear me talk about it a lot. In fact, I have a dozen or so in my office where if I meet somebody who I think it benefits, I'm handing them out like candy.
Sounds really good. I'll definitely be checking out both of those books. Well, Thank you again very much. We really appreciate you taking the time to meet with us today.
It was truly a pleasure, guys. Thanks a lot.
Yep. Thanks, Brenton.
Thanks for listening to Landlord University. And remember to visit rentprep.com/landlordu to see show notes and access free resources like forms and guides. And be sure to check out Jeff Pearson.